people are like, oh, we didn't choose this, we didn't choose, like, I get it, right? Some of our parents, they didn't, they had, I get it. But I also understand that if you do not do the work to expand this beyond what is current, you will stay at the bottom, right? And so what you're kind of seeing when it comes to poverty is it's not enough to give financial awareness, right? Like, oh, this is a high yield savings account. That is absolutely surfaced. What you would need to go beyond the reality of where you are is some type of expansion in here, expansion of perspective, right? Multiple perspectives, if you will. And that is typically inspired by some type of transformative kind of work, like maybe with a coach or whatever, or, you know, whatever it is. It's, to me, a desire to see beyond where you are now, right? And in order to do that, typically, if you're seeking, you are going to find people who are beyond. And so they will be the mirrors, or rather the projection of what can be, right? What life could be for you, right? But you got to stay in the room. But I think when I look at poverty, right, as a whole, like, yes, I understand, you know, oh, we didn't know, we didn't get anything from our parents, like, I get that. I think everyone who started from the trenches and built up to like 7 figures and beyond knows, they understand, right? However, when you get to a certain point in life, right, you do have a choice. And what I mean by that is your ignorance, I guess, right? Or just the lack of desire to expand beyond what you see, right? That, to me, is what inspires that crabs in a barrel kind of mentality. It's because you don't want to ascend from where you are. You want to be comfortable in where you are, right? This is technically the permanent poor class, right? See, it's one thing to start from poverty and to ascend beyond it. It's another thing to stay right there. Not because your circumstances or whatever, but because subconsciously you don't want to go beyond because of what's required to go beyond. You got to get uncomfortable, and you have to stay uncomfortable until that becomes your new norm, right? Because what is happening, which I've spoken about many times, is you are breaking a pattern, right? A subconscious pattern by way of creating a new pattern, right? And so I was comfortable too, but being with the matriarch, okay, they will set a fire under your ass. They will set a fire, okay? Yes, that's the thing, like, when they're moving, right, you don't have a choice but to move. You either move or you gotta go, right? Once you start slowing down, right, you become a weight in the room. And so you have to keep moving. It doesn't mean burn yourself out and not look at your limits, but you need to be moving in something. You can't just be like, I'm just not gonna move at all. It's like, you can't be here. Why? Because it's like a chain, an energetic chain in a circle, and that chain, one chain becomes heavy. Okay, this chain is not getting lighter, it's getting heavier. We got to cut this shit off. That is just the logical thing to do. And so, you know, I remember this spiritual teacher, she had made this video for me, and she was just like, you better keep up or you will get ate up. Now, during the time when I heard that, it hurt. It hurt bad. It hurt so bad, because I was at an internship and I wasn't really surviving. I was more so drowning, right? I was in an environment and I was in a career that I was not aligned with, and now I was in one of the most like competitive internships, and I had to like show up and show out, and I wasn't showing up the way that I was expected to, right? And you know, from her video, I was inspired to, because she made like 2 personal videos for it. It was really beautiful. But I was inspired to pivot, not to, you know, oh, I'm just not gonna do it. I pivoted. I was like, you know what? I am not aligned with what I'm doing right now. And so it's not that I'm not comfortable. I'm just, well, I'm uncomfortable, right? Because I'm unaligned. And so it's burning me out in a way where my body, my spleen, was getting poisoned. Like it was bad. And so I had to pivot because my body had already told me we're not locked in with this. But I even think about the sentiment behind pivoting, right? People who don't want to pivot, who are in survival mode, or they pivot extremely hard thinking that they'll never have to pivot again. Wrong. I've heard this a lot. I've heard this sentiment kind of projected on Facebook, and I'm like, that's not how that goes. You don't, when you pivot once, right? So that you can keep pivoting. Let me give you like, so if you're not used to challenge, how do you know? Okay. If you're not used to challenge, how do you know if it's just difficult or unaligned? Okay, so one of the things, when something is just difficult, right, it's typically not that you can't do it, right? There's just some type of barrier within yourself. When you're unaligned and you're doing something, it will affect your body. It will affect your internal system.